And ultimately, when I couldn't find the answers, I had to start admitting that things might be real. In this episode, I'd like to discuss all about the cause and the effect of a spiritual awakening. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this episode of Speaking Spiritually with Drake, Michigan. And as always, I'm your host, Kevin Warrellow. Over the next few weeks, I'll be making several of these Speaking Spiritually videos, where we delve into just one particular area so I can share more with you. I'd like you to think about this very, very carefully. What if the whole world that you perceive it has been an illusion? What if people really like the illusion of the world that they're living? What if the people who are already awakened to everything what's going on in the world are the ones who are correct? And everyone else, which is the majority, are still in a slumber, are still asleep. Some refusing to wake up. Others only stirring as they're nudged. What if all the information that's being put out there and people are still oblivious? What if people believe that life does happen to you and life is just about finding short periods of joy and happiness and dealing with events and unhappiness and sorrow and grief and pain and loss as things happen? What if everything that is happening is manufactured? What if the true purpose of coming to this life was to discover who you really are and consider, what if you have been playing the extra in somebody else's movie, never realizing that you are supposed to be the movie star, and not just the star, the director? If you're already spiritually awake, given the choice, knowing everything that you've been through and how you now see the world, would you take the pill and go back to sleep? And go back to slumber? And go about your life like the vast majority of the rest of the world? Was it easier to be asleep and to be ignorant to everything that is happening? Or would you not look back? Would you still choose to push forward regardless of all the pain and the suffering and all the struggles that come your way? What would you choose? What would you really choose? Would you choose to stay asleep? Or would you choose to be awakened? What if awakening to another way of looking at this world is pain? It's suffering. It's struggling. It's putting up with inconceivable truths that you wish at times that you never knew. Would you still continue on this journey? Or would you go back to sleep? The truth is, once you have a spiritual awakening, there's no going back. When you look at this life now, you realize the real lies. You realize that there's more. You realize we have been in a coma, a dream state, zombie state that we needed to be shook and wakened up from. Until you actually have a spiritual awakening, you would never understand how looking at the world from this new perspective really is. It's an impossible task to try and tell or even convince others. And ultimately, it's not your job. Your job is to live your life in your truth. You now see the world in a completely different way, and you approach situations from a completely different angle. You have become now separated from the dreamlike state that people are now living their lives in. Things that used to once seem so important, like relationships, mortgages, cars, materialistic stuff, seem so insignificant, because you realise we are truly here for a higher purpose. Now, if that purpose is to serve, if that purpose is to try and help others awaken, or just guide them in the right direction, if you knew a spiritual awakening could become more painful, you could be tested in ways that you never realised. You may lose family and friends. Situations may be taken out of your life. Difficult situations and experiences may come into your life in ways that you could never imagine. Would you still agree to it? Because once you've opened the box, there's really no ever closing it again. You never look at the world quite the same. Whether that's the news or films or programs on TV. Whether that's conversations that you hear others having. People that find certain things relevant and important just dissolve into nothingness. At times, you may find it difficult to even get out of bed in the morning. You may question, what's the point? Why? If ultimately there's a higher realm, a giver of dimensions, then what's the point of all this? What's the role we play? And surely God could just come down and sort it all out at any point if he wanted to. But if this realm, this third dimensional realm, is a game, then we need to learn how to play it. If we have been spiritually awakened to it, then we need to master it. We need to master ourselves, and we need to master this dimension. If you were the star of your own movie, would you be the good guy or would you be the villain? How would it all play out? What would be the most important thing? Would it be the materialistic stuff? Or would it be saving people? Would it be biblical? Would it be an action movie? Would it be a sci-fi? Now, let's go back. When I was around 28, I had no interest in spirituality, religion, a higher purpose or I had no interest in nothing like that. Before we start, I need to give a big shout out to how this platform is even possible. And that is predominantly by you, the listeners, who not just tune in each episode, but you take the action in your own lives and purchase things like our transformative online manifestation course and the supporting Create Your Dreams journal. It's by you, the subscribers, purchasing the wonderful products that we promote, from the likes of MasterPeace, your heavy metal detox supplement, to Strong Life for all your premium health products, and of course, Natural Shilajit. The only thing I was interested in was building. I was an entrepreneur and I was interested in building myself a nice life with a nice family, and I wanted some nice things, and I wanted a few holidays, and I wanted to be able to pay my bills. I was a pretty average Joe, an average guy on the street. Nothing special. Looking back at my childhood, it's easy to see now a few things happened along the way. But very much up until the age of 28, I never thought for 1 minute that my life was going in any other direction apart from being a businessman who wanted to build a large company and have holidays, family life, happiness, and everything that comes with just my perception of a good life. Little did I know, the giver of dimensions up there, or maybe my higher self and my soul, had other ideas. Completely different to what I thought. And at no point had they let me in on the what was to come. I'd like to start by sharing with you what I believe was the cause of my spiritual awakening. And it's important to know I never looked for it. I never asked for it. I never said I wanted it. I was just going about my life in the best way that I thought I knew at the time. Now, I was going through a period where my business was having difficulties. It was having financial trouble. The shops that I owned wasn't making as much money as I needed. And pressure was starting to build. There was fallouts with family members. There was fallouts with a building company. So there was stress and pressure. And ultimately, this cultivated in the trauma what I believe was the cause of my spiritual awakening. During this period of stress, worry, anxiety, depression, you could put it all together and class it as trauma. I was going into work every night like I normally do, carrying out my duties and just running the business the best I could at the time. So everything was building up. I felt lost. I never had any answers to how I could solve some of my problems. So when the spiritual awakening happened, it would have been more easily to suggest and to make sense that I'd had some kind of breakdown, some kind of psychotic episode. Or back in the day, people would have said, he's lost the plot. He's gone nuts. And I would have agreed. Because that's where I was at that time. I would have looked for rational explanation. In fact, I searched for answers. I searched for people who could explain to me what was happening. And ultimately, when I couldn't find the answers, I had to start admitting that things might be real. That these things that were now happening to me and what I was feeling and emotionally going through were real. The evidence that I was able to give was real and backed it up. So let me share with you the night time when my life got turned upside down. And it had started. I used to work in my own business and I used to do night shifts. And just like any other night, I used to enter my business through the back door and I would get changed into my uniform, make myself a cup of tea, put the first mix on. I was a baker and I used to make my own bread and products. There was already one or two other gentlemen working in the bakery at the same time. On this occasion, there was a Sean who was in the other room. And I just got on with my normal routine. Started the mixer, started making the bread, the dough. And I probably would have been about 2 hours into the shift, and I was just moulding bread on the table, rolling out the finger rolls, moulding the loaves of bread, putting them on the trays, putting them onto the rack to go into a prover, all part of the process of making fresh bread. And as I was moulding the bread, something caught my attention in the corner of my eye. Now, at that end of the bakery, there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to enter the bakery. It was just a long room with a window at the very end. So something caught my attention out the corner of my eye that made me turn. And as I turned, while still kneading and moulding the loaves of bread, stood near the end of the table was a young man. And this man was round about 25, 28 years of age. And one of the first things that I noticed about him was his attire, his clothes, didn't seem relevant to the year. Although smart in appearance, they seemed like they were probably about 20 years out of date. And as I turned and I looked at him, he leant over, and without moving his lips, although I could see his teeth, I could feel words in my mind, like an invisible language, like telepathy was being communicated. And he said, "Kevin, we're going to have some fun." And just like that, he was gone. And then it hit me. And then I screamed. Fear started running through my veins. I became very what's going on? What happened? Sean come running in from the other room. And he said, Kev, what's the matter? And I tried to explain to him what had just happened. Now, obviously, rational mind, rational thinking. Sean presumed, "You must have fell asleep, Kev." I knew I hadn't fell asleep. So I started to think, I've gone crazy. I've lost my mind. I started to recite my date of birth, where I lived, my parents' names, my partner's names, my kids' names, what I did this morning, what I've got to do. I was trying to make sense, of what had happened, while also trying to make sense, look, I know who I am, I've not gone crazy. It turned into a bit of a laugh and a joke as we tried to, try and figure out what had happened. But it wasn't just, like when people say, I caught something in. No. This was full on. I turned, we looked at each other, he leant over, and without words coming out of his mouth, he spoke to me. Now, the cause of all this happening, this was the splash in the ocean, this was the event that turned everything on its head. This is the thing that happened that was to take my life in a whole new direction that I was yet to see. So this was the event. But I make no apologies, and my own understanding is the cause of it is probably because of the trauma and the stress that I was under. Now, over the years, I've learned other people's stories, from women going through childbirth who have had a spiritual awakening because of the trauma of giving birth has been so full on, to other people who have had near-death experiences and they've come out of it with this spiritual awakening. So there's so many stories that are led up to people's spiritual awakening. And a lot of them are triggered by trauma. Maybe that's a higher power, a higher conscious, our spirit, our higher self. Maybe that's their way of shaking us to the core and waking us up from our slumber, from the deep sleep that we're in, and saying, wake up, wake up. So maybe we need these events, this build-up of, and this trauma to trigger us. Some people come into this world born already awakened. They have these amazing abilities from childhood, but yet they have to go through pain and suffering and difficulties and, learning to acknowledge it and come to terms with it. When 99.9% of the world are asleep to some of the things that you're saying, it can be a very lonely and difficult place. But more and more people are waking up. More and more people are beginning to question. More and more people are becoming aware that something's not right. What a great time to do this episode as we embark on the upcoming solar eclipse and what could be, in the biblical sense, the 3 days of darkness. There's no question we are going through a very unusual time in life. More people, I believe, are waking up. People are starting to question. Now, whether you're somebody who woke up from past events, going back to things like 9/11, the latest pandemics that we've gone through, people have got many different things that have awakened them to a whole new way of thinking. And when they do begin to awaken, they'll be searching. They'll be looking for people who can give them the answers. They'll be looking for guides and for teachers. They'll be looking for videos and books. So, you out there who are watching this video and have your own experiences and your own journey, you'll be fitting into two categories. You're either recently awakened and you're looking for guidance and answers, or you will become a teacher to help others. And if you're asleep, then I doubt very much that you'll be watching this video. But if you are, you probably think I'm crazy. After a few days of trying to get my head around what had happened, and nothing else happened, by the way, just that night of seeing this gentleman at the end of the table. And then for the next few days, it was more of a case of, I just wanted to rest, question, and in fact, I think I'd booked myself in to go and see the doctor. And I know at some point I ended up going to the doctors, and you end up filling out one of these forms and they ask you a load of questions. How you feeling? Have you been thinking a certain way? And I hadn't. Overall, I was quite a good person of being able to deal with, negative situations and difficulties and hardship. That was my upbringing. I'd come from that. So it was even though I was going through a difficult period in my life, I was quite adaptive dealing with it. I might not like what was happening, but at a certain level, it wasn't really bothering me that much. So, now we know the cause of my personal spiritual awakening. Now that was over 15 years ago. And so much has happened since. The first 3 to 5 years, I just wanted to dive straight in, head first, into anything to do with spirituality. After I'd got over the initial, shock and fearfulness of it, then it became exciting. I really felt like I'd found the Holy Grail. I really felt like, I'd never looked at the world like there was a God and a higher power and there was a purpose. That wasn't my life. I'd never thought like that. So now suddenly, my life had turned completely upside down, and now I wanted to know as much as I could. Whether that was reading books, going to your local bookstore, your libraries. The internet might have just been starting, but it wasn't as popular then. So any information I could find, I found myself going off onto workshops, onto courses, local spiritual churches. And it was very, very exciting at first. But after a period of about 4 to 5 years, I had to turn my back on it all. And I walked away from it all. But I made a promise. And my promise was to the giver of dimensions. And that was, if my life changed and I was in a different position where I could share this information and help people from a different platform than the current one I was in, which was one of struggle and difficulty, then I said I'd shout it from the rooftops. I would tell anybody that would listen. And now, over 15 years later, I'm sat sharing this story with you and anybody else who will listen. And I'll only share it with those who want to listen for a start, because it's not my job to convince anybody. You can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. Over the last 15 years, there has been many effects of being spiritually awakened. The biggest and the first one that I'll share is, you don't look at the world the same. You don't look at people the same. You don't look at situations the same. You don't look at life in the same importance as it once held. Another effect of a spiritual awakening is you attract things into your life, like a moth to a flame or to a light. And unfortunately, you don't always attract good. Believe it or not, negativity and bad situations and people are also attracted to the light. And you have to tread very, very carefully and set your own boundaries and don't allow them to steal your energy. Because ultimately that's all they're after. They're after your power, your energy, your light. And unconsciously, they might not even be aware of what they're doing. Most of these people who are drawn and attracted to you because they want your energy, they want your light, is normally because they are struggling and got so many issues in their own lives. Things that they've not dealt with themselves. Things that they refuse to deal with. So it's easier to steal someone else's energy and light. Thankfully, you will also attract good people, good situations, more light. And only the smallest speckle of light will eliminate the darkest of rooms. How adept that I'm a Wolverhampton Wanderers football fan for my sins. And our club motto and logo is, out of the darkness cometh the light. How amazing is that? Because I believe people who are asleep to the reality of this dimension are in the darkness. They are unaware and oblivious to everything and all the evils that is going on around them. But it only takes so many to shine the light, and there'll be a tsunami. It'll awaken so many. A big effect of becoming spiritually awakened. People think you're crazy. People think you're off your rocker. Where are you getting all this information from? You may even get labelled with the conspiracy crowd. And that's a separate thing. We have to acknowledge it. But ultimately, you don't want to be giving your energy there either. There's truth, but you don't need to be giving it all your energy. That's my own personal opinion. Anything that takes your power and your energy is a distraction and diverting you from the higher source, from your true purpose. And this dimension has an amazing way of trying to distract you. That could be family members, friends, social surroundings, events, sports, music, films. It's unlimited. Anything that stops you thinking and realizing your true power is an effect of a spiritual awakening. Another effect of a spiritual awakening that really hurts is when you no longer resonate with certain family or friends. They could have been your closest family members or your closest friends, and people that you sort of looked up to, admired and had a lot, but suddenly it's like you no longer connect. You're no longer on the same wavelength. So losing family and friends out of your life because you no longer resonate with each other, that can be painful and difficult, but it is an effect of a spiritual awakening. As we go deeper and you learn more, you'll realise it's because your frequency and vibration doesn't resonate and is no longer on the same frequency and vibrations of those people. And through my experience and my belief, it's you could be stood next to somebody and you're both completely in two different parallel worlds or dimensions. If you're spiritually awakened, you could be seeing synchronicities and events happening all around you. The person stood next to you would never notice. If you're somebody you've just turned and the clock's just struck 11:11 and all the ones have caught your attention, but the person next to you, it means absolutely nothing. They wouldn't even look at the clock. It doesn't matter. You're driving down the road and suddenly a car's coming up and you may see 888. And the first time you see it, you might think, oh, yeah, 888, I know what that means. Financial abundance is coming to me. And then something else, a for sale board, and the phone number's 888 and it hits you again. And then a bit further down the road, another van or something drives past. And then, so synchronicities, in so many ways, you become more aware of them. And the more you become aware of them, as you become more awakened, the more you understand their meanings that keep you guided and on the right path. I'd like to share with you the 5 magpie theory. Now, I'm going to presume most of you have never heard of the 5 magpie theory. And the simple reason is because it's my theory. It's something I concocted when I've been awakening and speaking with angels and the giver of dimensions and everything else. And what I asked was, I would send a question out, whether that's, am I on the right path, or should I do a certain thing, a decision that you're making in your life. And I would say to the universe, If you can hear me, and I'm on the right path and everything I'm doing is correct, then send me 5 magpies. Now, if you understand how it all works, you just ignore. Now you've asked the question, just completely let it go. Ignore it. And the other day, I'd done something similar. I'd asked a big question. In fact, it was to do with this episode, what I'm sharing with you. I was out walking the dog, and I asked, should I do an episode on the cause and effect? Should I start sharing my experiences and my journey? Shall I start to prove to people and put my money where my mouth is and show, look, I will connect with the spirit world. I will show you how spirit communicates and connects with us. And as difficult as that is, so I asked, send me the 5 magpies so I know you're listening and it's something I should do and I'm on the right path. Half an hour later, and bearing in mind I was out walking the dog and we just decided to not even go our usual route. And I found myself walking down a main road. And on one side there was like a cricket club. And on the other side there was some bushes. And there was a field. And just as I got to this area, 5 magpies were all there in a row, just looking at me. Now, someone who's not spiritually awakened might just say, coincidence. It's just a coincidence. Well, first of all, it's a busy main road. So, birds tend to get frightened off and fly off at the best of times. It just so happens there was 5. Not 2, not 4. And bearing in mind, magpies usually are in 2s. 5. And that's the reason why I asked for 5. Because it's unusual. Just the fact that there was 5 magpies there in the first place would make people say, well, I suppose it is a bit weird. And it just so happens I walked that way and I looked that direction and they're just there. But for me, as an awakened person, I took that as a signal and a sign from the giver of dimensions, the universe, my higher self, my angels, that they are listening. And I am on the right path. And as difficult as that is. So that's a positive effect of when you're awakened. And there is a lot of positives as well of being awakened. Because ultimately as well, I now know there's more to this life than I used to. Okay, getting your head around it can be difficult. That's part of the journey and learning. But knowing that this is just a meat suit, knowing that we are a spiritual being enjoying an experience, a physical experience in this body, that is quite profound. And I'm really glad I know that knowledge. Regardless of what anyone else may say, regardless of any other person's theories, regardless of anyone who said, oh no, when you're dead, you're dead. Okay, that's fine. If that's what you believe, then you believe that. But the experiences that have happened to me and the effects that it's had on me, I can't believe that. I've had enough information and evidence happen in my life and miracles happen in my life that suggest otherwise. That's the effects. Another major effect of my spiritual awakening after I saw this gentleman at the end of the table is that I became aware that I now had certain abilities that I never had before. When sat and talking to people with their permission, I was then able to feel that person, their life, things that had happened in that person's life, things that were going to happen in the future in their life. And although I had no control on what information come through, I was able to feel things like if they had a partner, if they had children, if their parents were in the spirit world or in this life, whether they went to university, what religion, anything. It was just, basically, it's almost like I knew everything about the person who sat in front of me. Now, I don't do that just every single person I come across. That would be if we sat down and, they'd come and they said, okay, let's have a reading, or let's connect with spirit. Because something else was an effect of this newfound ability, was the ability to connect with a higher realm, the spirit world, who probably reside on the fourth dimension, looking down on us, because they no longer need physical body. And they can see things from a higher perspective, from all angles. That's why it's the fourth dimension. And also, through my experience, and as I go along, information is brought to me from the spirit world. So I know, up in the fourth dimension, there's probably no such thing as time and space. Now, again, that's only information what I've picked up over the years. And it's probably how spirit can be with us and see everything from a completely different angle that we would never imagine. In fact, that's probably where angels come from, is probably angles. And we already know we live in a third dimension. We can see forward, we can see to the sides, but we can't see behind us. First dimension, flat line. Second dimension, computer game on a screen. Third dimension, our life. Fourth dimension, cube, looking down, seeing everything. Higher dimensions, although I can't confirm this, Spirit does not give me this information as yet, but you're probably likely to find ascended masters, higher souls that have no need to incarnate again. Even higher at some other level, they believe there's 11 dimensions. And at the top of the pyramid, the top of the 11th dimension is probably the Godhead, the source, the consciousness, which is what everything is. So that's just a little glimpse of some of the effects of the information that you come across. Now, what I tend to do is, I don't want to share anybody else's knowledge and information as gospel. But if I've been showed stuff from the spirit world or during a reading, then I'm comfortable in saying that then. So I know over the years of giving readings and everything else, another effect is the importance, what Spirit tried to tell us, of letting go of situations that don't serve you. Letting go of your past that's holding you back from having a fulfilled and joyful and a happy life. The importance of, if somebody's done you wrong, even if they've crossed over, cut that cord, let it go. It's holding you back, it's holding them back, and it serves no purpose. My understanding is that Spirit, they just want you to be happy. They want you to enjoy this life to the fullest. And that does not mean working 50, 60 years of your life for small little bits of happiness just to die. I think if people were awakened, what they would do is they would follow their heart and do something in life with a purpose of what they resonate with. If you like music, do something with music. If you like art, do something with art. If you do like sports, do something with sports. If you enjoy politics and organisation, do that. But follow your heart. Follow your dreams. Don't follow the program that has been indoctrinated into your head. So this is another big effect of a spiritual awakening. It's understanding who you are, what you are, and living a life of more purpose. And purpose also becomes service. And service is also gratitude. And I believe this is what we truly are, which is ultimately love. And everything else is a life of fear. Love and fear, light and dark. And there has to be a duality, there has to be a balance. Another effect of a spiritual awakening was learning that there's ascended masters. I have never looked into any religions or faiths in my life. But yet during healing, meditation, and becoming aware, spiritually aware and awakened, I've encountered the Lady Green Tara. I've encountered Shiva, the Hindu god. I've encountered Ganesh, which is Shiva's son, by what I've learned, and removes blockages from people's lives. I have seen, on a few occasions, I've experienced the Christ energy and the Master Jesus Christ, the teacher himself, who has joined me on an amazing healing session. Now, I believe that's real because of everything else that's happened to me and the miracles that I've seen happen in my life. And on this journey, you get to speak to other people who have had many similar experiences and episodes, what they can share, which almost validate your own story. Although I'm yet to see an angel or an archangel, I do have stories where I believe I've encountered earth angels, people who are incarnated in physical form, who have come into my life at the precise right moment when I've needed them. And I believe I've felt the presence of angels and they've helped me. But I'm 15 years in, but I'm yet to actually see, as much as I've asked Archangel Michael to show himself, or Raphael or Uriel or Metatron and all the others, unfortunately, not yet. That bit's not happened. Another effect of a spiritual awakening, which I would never have thought, during the first few years, when all the psychic and mediumship stuff was happening and I was so excited and I thought it was amazing, and I literally thought that was everything. And all these years later now, I almost look at that as if that's sort of kindergarten stuff. and I love it, by the way. I love being able to bring messages through and communicate and help people. But part of a spiritual awakening is there's so much more. There's just so much more to it. It's almost like that's the fun bit, like just messing around. It's like there is like levels of awareness and awakening. And when you become aware of even things like the elements, earth, wind, water, fire, all these elements take on their own living being, if you like the planet Earth itself is a living entity. So, and then when you start going up and learning even more, and you things like astral traveling, remote viewing, it's just endless. And through this, I've come across things like law of attraction and manifestation, which is absolutely incredible, but also backs up then that we are living in this dimensional world where you can create the life of your dreams. You can create and pull situations and people into your life. I've seen it firsthand, and it's more powerful than you realise. This is why it's also important. The effects of positive thinking and negative thinking are so important when it comes to manifestation, and also the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Negative people and situations around you can pull your energy, your manifestations. It can completely rip you back. So I want you to look at who you're surrounded by. If you're surrounded by people who come into work or come into your life every day and all they're doing is moaning about their partner, their life, their financial situation, and these people are not big liars, but basically they're telling lies. They're lying to themselves. If you know they're like frauds or cheats, and they're cheating on their partners, or things that you would class as just, that's not positive, good energy. All that is being pulled and rubbed onto you and draining you of your positive energy. So you need to become aware of the effects of negativity and positivity. So even if your life's not going well at the moment, if you can direct your thoughts and your actions in a positive, and your thoughts in a positive way, then you will begin to attract more light, more energy, more positivity, better circumstances, better situations into your life. Without a question of a doubt. And it doesn't have to be just money. Because the thing is, when you're spiritually awakened, you realise money is just an element of life that you need to do certain things and enjoy. But there's so much more to it. We all want the nice things. We all want a comfortable life. And believe me, with abundance of money, we don't have to sort of worry about certain things. So that's always going to be lovely. But even if the money comes, then what are you going to do? Are you going to make your life about you? Or are you going to serve others? For me, the effects of a spiritual awakening is I just want to serve others. I need to be able to be in a position to look after my own family and my own life and understand that. But to serve others, for me, is a greater gift. So that's the effects of a spiritual awakening. I no longer believe it's about me and my story. I believe it's about you, and opening the person up and helping the person to understand their true self, their true potential. So that's the service, how I feel driven. A big thing I'd like to share with you, which I'm currently, even now, and I've had to deal with, is up to now, the effects of a spiritual awakening have been detrimental to my health and my wealth. Make no mistake about it. On 2 occasions in my life, when my life has been going very, very well, and money in the bank account has been looking very, very healthy, and life has been enjoyable, it's when I've turned my back on spirituality. That's my experience. But yet, such is the pull and the importance of the subject and the respect that I have for the spirit world and the higher power and the universe and the giver of dimensions, that when I've come back to it, which you will find, it doesn't matter how many times you try and walk away from it, you get pulled back to it. Every time up to now that I've been pulled back into these spiritual circles and tried to do what I believe is the right thing, other areas of my life have gone to shit. It's like a complete breakdown, whether that's a death of an ego, whether that's the death of an old life, for a new one to be reborn, whether that's the death of old knowledge, so new understanding and knowledge and experiences can come in. But by jolly. And when I say becoming spiritually awake, I've lost everything. On 2 occasions, I mean everything. Right down to the clothes on my back. So, and that makes it even worse, because then when you're telling people about this whole spiritual experience and awakening, and suddenly your life's in the gutter, it stands to reason there people would say, he's lost the plot in. What's he doing? He had multi-million-pound businesses, and now he's telling people to believe in this and believe in that, and he's lost all his money. That could make me cry. But I still would never turn my back on the purpose and the mission. Never. I believe in it that much. Helping and serving others is always going to take priority in my life. Now, the effects and experience I've had over the last couple of years is the importance of the children. Whatever's happening and spirit of guiding, all my energy will be towards helping the children, listening to the children. Because at the end of the day, they're the future, they're the next wave. So it's the children that are going to have to be guided through. And I do believe we're going through difficult times. And after the difficult times, I do believe there is so much amazing and beauty and happiness. But at the moment, I think we have to go through this real difficult period. And that will be in our personal lives, but then in our local areas and society, and in our countries, and ultimately on a world level. Everything is being shaken. There's been cause, and now we're seeing the effects. The cause and the effect. The cause, for me, the balance has gone too much to the dark. There has been too much greed, too much negativity, too much corruption, too much evil. That's the cause. And now, just like seeing that person at the end of the table, there must be an event. And then after this big awakening event is going to be the effects. So even on an individual basis, I can explain my story. But now you can understand how it's happening on a larger scale, on a world scale, on a universe scale, on a dimensional scale. Spirit shared with me the way they explained it was, we are all moving up a level. On an individual case, I've seen this with my own visions and my own feelings. They're getting, if they used to be in standard TV, they're now in high definition. That's the way I would explain things. It's when I'm seeing information coming through in my third eye vision now, it's as real as I'm looking at the camera, I'm recording this. But that's on an individual basis. So on a larger basis, look at what's happening in the world. The wars, the corruptions, and it's all falling apart. 2024, the great unveiling. The veil is so thin now. Everybody, those that are prepared to awaken, everybody is starting to see it. Whether that's the latest corruption in the music industry, whether that's our politicians, whether it's the pharmaceuticals, whether it's the big corporations, whether it's our royal families, whether it's these families, who are so-called at the top of the pyramids. The veil is so thin now. It's 2024 is the great unveiling. everybody is going to see what's really happening. So the cause, the unveiling is going to be the big splash and the incidents, and then we're going to have the effect. Now the effect is so many people, I believe, are going to waken up from the slumber, from the dream state, from their zombie state that they're in. Now what's going to happen is certain people are not going to want that to happen. And there is going to be turbulence and chaos. That might last a couple of years. But like everything, just as day follows night and summer follows spring, everything happens in cycles. And you are so lucky and fortunate to be alive at this time. So, if you've suddenly just recently thought, I've been having a lot of ringing in my ears lately, or I've been feeling very fatigued lately, I feel lost with no purpose lately, just bear that in mind from a different angle. Frequencies are changing. Cause and effect is happening. You are on your own journey and mission. Stay strong, stay true. Don't get pulled away in directions by others who are trying to steal your energy and steal your light. A spiritual awakening is like opening the curtains on a dark room and allowing the sunlight to flood in and shine bright. And if you looked out of that window and you saw a new world, would you close the curtains? Or would you venture forward? Would you open the window and allow that new world in? That's the question that a lot of people are going to be faced with. Are you going to embrace the new world? Or are you going to cling on to the old one? And we all know what happens if you hold on to something too long. You end up losing it anyway. So we have to let go. We have to trust. Trust that everything is exactly how it needs to be. The giver of dimensions makes no mistakes and has already won this battle. Everything else is just an illusion of your mind. And you are a speckle of perfection. We are all part of the same thing. We are all one. We're all from the consciousness. We are all experiencing this life in our own way. So before we judge and we look at others, let's just take a moment to say they're on their own journey. They're in their own place at the moment. And it's not for me to interfere with that. But if they come knocking on your door and they want help, then we're there for them. If you've enjoyed this episode of Cause and Effect of a Spiritual Awakening, then check out our other videos, especially the vision board. That goes deep into showing you how you can look to transform your life and take control. If you're somebody who wants to know everything straight away and you want to learn as quickly as possible, check out our Manifestation Mastery course that's available on our website. And if you're not quite ready for that, then check out on our YouTube and Spotify channels Level Up Your Life, which you can still gain the knowledge and learn at your own pace. I hope if you check out on Amazon and on our website, you'll see the Create Your Dreams Journal, which is a fantastic book that we put together, not only as a guide of information, but a personal where you can jot down all of the information daily of what's happening and keep tabs on everything. So check that out. If you want to read more about my spiritual side of my spiritual journey, like with all the psychic and the mediumship and everything that happened during that first 3 or 4 year period, then check out the book Spirit Energy by Drake, Michigan. If this is the first time you've come across one of our videos, and why are you called Drake, Michigan? Well, it's simple. My spirit guide that came to me and gave me so much support and information and gave me a kick up the arse was named Benjamin Drake, and he was a US Marine. And we looked him up and we actually found him. So again, we try to back everything up with facts and evidence, and it's a great story. We also have another book out there, The Language of Spirit. So if you want to know more and you're into the psychic and the spiritual stuff and you want to know more of how I work during a reading, then check that out. So all these are available on our website, on Amazon, and all our social media platforms. If you have any questions regarding the whole spiritual awakening subject, then I'd like you to leave a comment below this video and get involved with the community. And if you're somebody who's already had a spiritual awakening, then please share your story and journey so others can benefit and learn from it. Check out the products that we are personally affiliated with. We receive a small commission every time these products are purchased, which helps create this channel and helps keeping it going. So any support from yourselves is grateful.